Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with...
I'm Dan, the ambassador of nonsense. Welcome everyone. By the way, we have the beer of the week. This week it's Shorts Brewery, Humalupalicious. It's an India Pale Ale.
It sounds like a Willy Wonka beer.
It does, doesn't it? It's brewed by Shorts Brewery
Humalupalicious.
Elk Rapids, Michigan. Well, there's a reason for its name. The bitterness of beer comes from hops, and the hops have special glands in them, in the fruits, called lupulin glands, and the lupulin glands produce a oil called humulus. And an IPA, as this is, typically is a little bit higher on the bitterness scale, and therefore the name Humalupalicious, Humulus Lupulinlicious.
So this beer... Okay, Dan actually sent me the beer now, so I'm able to test it too. And
right.
I guess I just don't have a sophisticated palate for this stuff. This tastes like old Budweiser, which someone has poured sugar in. That's what it, because there's some sweet.
There's a fruitiness.
Sugary there.
Yeah, a fruitiness from that's the hops,
and it's bitter.
And it's bitter, right. That's which is
Okay.
the obviously the hops.
That's the beer of the week. Is that available anywhere except Michigan? Is that like available over the country?
Oh yeah, I mean I don't live in Michigan. I live in Indiana. I went to Kroger and bought it.
Oh, okay, that's right. You're not even in Michigan. I thought you were in Michigan
anymore. Right? No.
Okay.
That's so yeah. It's available everywhere. Shorts Brewery has a number of beers that they distribute nationwide.
Okay. This week we are going to do part 2 of our podcast on demons.
Right.
And
Hey, by the way, if we're doing demons, should I mention that I've been to hell and back?
You've been to hell and back?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a city called Hell in the Cayman Islands.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And you went there?
I went there, and it's
you're
pretty
back.
cool. And I'm back, so I've been to hell and back. But this
Is it as bad as they say?
It's well. It was actually pretty pleasant, but they have this. It's a tiny city, and its entire economy is tourists wanting to be able to say they've been to hell and back.
I see.
But as you can imagine, but they do have these really interesting rock formations that look like volcanic rock. Think of like pumice, except think about pumice. Like worn away into these sharp shards and stuff like that. You could probably look up Hell, Grand Cayman and see pictures of it. And I mean, it looks like if Hollywood wanted to have a scene, to depict hell, that this is what they would pick. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But it turns out they're not volcanic rock at all. They're actually I don't know, some kind of calcite based rock, and it's just that the wearing from the combination of standard weather wearing and certain kinds of bacteria happen to wear them the particular way that they are. And they're like razor sharp. They've got these walls set up, so wooden barriers to mark off where people aren't allowed to go. And you're not allowed to mess with them or break them or anything like that. But apparently they're razor sharp. If you try to walk into them, you'd cut yourself all up anyway.
Did you take pictures of them?
I did take pictures of them. Yeah, I should send you some pictures. We can put them on our website.
Send me a couple pictures. Yeah, we'll put them on the website in case someone wants to see what hell looks like.
That's right.
Was there a party? Because they say there's no party in hell.
There was no party.
Okay. Let's see. Now, with these podcasts, we record them, and then I put on my headphones, and I have to listen to them as I edit them and cut my dog barking out and things like that. And then the whole time I'm listening to them, I'm like, man, I forgot to mention this, and I forgot to mention that. And since this is a 2-parter, I get to come back and mention the things that I should have mentioned that somehow got left out of my notes. And one of the big things is that because we think of good and evil as opposites, and they are kind of opposites, but in a sense they are not opposites because one is more solid than the other. People also think of God and the devil as opposites.
And they are nowhere near.
Right. The devil's entire existence, for now and for always, completely relies on God's will.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, in a sense, the devil's hatred of God is a rebellion against his own existence.
Yeah. So there's, it's just something that whenever you think of the devil, you should keep in mind that they're not like the yin and the yang. They're
right. Right.
The devil's
God is the first principle of everything, including the devil's existence.
Yeah. So I wanted to get that in. Also, we really didn't talk about what exactly the devil wants and why it wants it. And I guess the first part of what the devil wants is to rebel against God and everything that God has made and created. And part of what moves the devil is an intense hatred for not just God, but for man because of our adoption by God.
Right.
And there's this intense envy and pride that drive the devil to hurt man, or the devil wants to hurt God by hurting man, or by dragging man away from God. But if they can't hurt God, or they can't drag man away from God, they are just as happy to hurt man, because that's what they do. They want to hurt things. The reason they can't is because God keeps them from doing it.
Right. We talked about that last week. That angels have in their nature the ability to manipulate the material world. So if God were not simply holding that as a protection, the fallen angels, the demons, they would be able to inflict tremendous pain on us.
Right. And we would be powerless to do anything about it.
Right.
But as it is, that's not the case. So, and then let's see. There's one other thing, and when we think about demons, there's there are different sci-fi entities out there that people have thought up in cases where, like, if you tell, there's a group of creatures, and if one of them sees something, then all of them see it, or all of them know it. Because of either because they share one mind, or their communication is so good that any one of them knowing it would make all of them know it. Right. And that's not the case with demons. And there is a hierarchy, because that hierarchy existed when they were angels, and there are orders and classes of demons, and some of them are over other ones and have power over other ones. Yeah,
they do. The lower ones do the higher ones' biddings.
Right, and they do communicate to a certain extent, but they don't communicate that well. And in their communications, it's not like the communication between angels, whereas all of them are working for one purpose, and that is the greater glory of God.
Right.
The demons are working towards the opposite, but that includes selfishness. So they're not, okay, we're all on a team here to get this guy to turn away from God. They only talk to each other when it works for them. I guess is they're not some mass organized crime syndicate, or at least they're not well organized. They are organized, and maybe better than humans could ever do it, but not in the way that angels are. And they have self-interest higher than the interests of each other. And it's one of those things you would keep in mind if you think you're dealing with a demon.
It's true.
That would lead us into the thoughts of demons and the way they think and the way they know things. And you were going to look into that.
Yes. So there's a few things that we kind of touched on last week. So one of the things we said was that angels, and therefore demons, I'll speak mainly in terms of angels, because the nature of everything that I'm talking about applies to demons. Yeah. I won't keep saying angels or demons. So angels don't have the ability to. They don't go through a process of creating new knowledge from existing knowledge by bringing to light things that they might be able to know, but they don't, or a process of I'm going to say discovery. And that's if you take discovery one way, they do, because their knowledge does continue to increase. For example, as time goes on in the world, and as they see people do things, they now know what the person did. So their knowledge increases in that sense. But but or they discover in that sense, but they don't discover in the sense of wondering about something and then going and finding that out. Now, we refer to these different aspects of intellect in man as passive and active intellect, also sometimes referred to as potential and actual intellect. And to kind of understand or get at almost what it's like for an angel to know something, I've come up with a few analogies. None of them is going to be perfect. All together, hopefully, they kind of convey some idea. The problem is that as an experience, we don't really have any point of reference for the knowledge of an angel. It would be very difficult for us to have a sympathetic understanding of angels' knowledge. We could just kind of talk about it intellectually using terms that we can talk about it intellectually, but to have a sympathy for what it really means is very difficult. But I think a few analogies I can kind of convey a little bit of the sense of what knowledge is like for an angel. And one of the things that I think is kind of a sticking point for that people would have trying to think about this is this concept of angels not having active and passive intellect. When you understand that passive intellect, also often called potential intellect, is you kind of describe it as, well, those are the things that you could know, that you have the potential to know, and then the active intellect is the act of applying the things you do know in order to bring the light and to actuate your potential intellect so that it becomes actual knowledge now, an actual understanding.
Okay.
And the what's difficult about that is you think, well, gee, if an angel, he doesn't know the future, he doesn't know what somebody's going to do until they do it, and then they do it, and now he knows, wasn't that potential knowledge? And the answer is no. And to understand why, you want to think about the difference. We can almost think about the difference in us between potential knowledge and the mere absence of knowledge. So, for example, I don't know the age of Kim Jong-un, okay? I could find out. I don't want you to find out. But I could go on the internet and I could find out when he was born, and then I would know his age.
35.
So, don't tell me that.
I don't know. I just made that up.
Anyway, but the point is that's a potential knowledge because it's a thing that I have a potentiality of knowing. In my intellect is, you can almost think of potential knowledge as a slot of knowledge that could be filled in.
Okay.
That's sitting there. Its potentiality is already in my intellect. Now, consider a country that I've never heard of, a hypothetical country that I've never heard of, in a part of the world that I've never particularly focused my thoughts while looking at a map, that has some structure of government that I don't know what they have, and they have some leader of government who rules or governs them right now. Now, I don't know what his age is either, but that doesn't even represent potential knowledge because there's no potentiality for that for me to fill in. It's a mere absence of knowledge, because there's, you know what you see? So that's
right.
Kind of the difference between potential knowledge versus mere absence of knowledge. And for the angels, the things that they don't know, that they know as the world unfolds, that they continue to gain knowledge of in terms of the material world, it's more like the country that I don't know anything about. Now, consider even more that, because the angels' knowledge of the material world is perfect. Whereas ours, we have a lot of stuff that we don't know and we got to figure out and so forth. So think about like if the mere, so you don't know about this country or its leader or whatever, but merely telling you the name of the country would somehow automatically plug you into absolute complete knowledge of everything about the country, its history, its geography, the geology and topography, the history of that part of the world before it became that country, all the people who ever lived in the country, the system of government and the various systems of government that it's had, as well as the age of its current leader. Everything, just boom, all at once. So the mere knowledge of the existence of the country is also absolute complete knowledge of everything about the country itself. That's kind of how the angel's knowledge of the material world is as it unfolds.
Yeah. I wish I had that.
Yeah, yeah, that would be nice.
It'd be pretty neat.
You'd pass every social studies test for sure.
So when we say an angel is smart, or that demons are smart, this is the kind of knowledge that they have.
Yeah.
They have everything that was given to them by God, and he did, apparently, he gave some angels more than other angels, according to his will. Or at least that's what Aquinas says.
Right.
But I think it was described as far as the knowledge that angels have, or the amount of knowledge they have, and the knowledge as it comes down through the hierarchy of I've heard it described as a number of glass panes, and you would shine light through them, and by the time the light gets to the bottom, it has essentially gone through all the other angels.
So you're thinking that the angels, and that's one thing I did not look up in Aquinas, is that the angels' mode of knowing, and so you're saying that their mode of knowing for some angels is only from the knowledge of other angels.
That's what I got from it, but again, you're getting pretty deep into a whole other subject.
Yeah.
And so I just, okay, well, that's interesting, but
right.
The thing about demons is the demons no longer receive knowledge that the angels still receive. I don't know how to explain this because it's not...
But I think that there are at least some angels, some of them now demons, to whom it was given from their creation. It's part of their nature, and maybe this is all angels in some respect, to have complete knowledge of the material world.
Right.
Which means they're simultaneously aware of, a galaxy being created 800 billion light years away, and a star falling into the black hole at the middle of our galaxy, and a baby being born on Earth.
And these are all things in the natural world.
Yes.
But things in the supernatural is revealed from God.
Yeah.
And an angel knows it absolutely because it's revealed from God. But demons are cut off from supernatural knowledge.
Right.
And in that way they can err.
Mm-hmm.
They can be wrong.
Right.
Which they are, and I think they were at, say, when Jesus was here saving us from our sins. I don't think the devil really understood what was going on until it was too late.
So that's
okay. The next part of this.
Well, the other thing that I was going to point out is that this is something that Thomas Aquinas brought up, and it kind of helps us. Even though angels' knowledge of the material world is perfect, and in fact, not only perfect in the sense of knowledge of the current state of the material world and all the history of the material world, but their knowledge of the causes of the material world is perfect, such that they know, everything in the future of the universe to the extent that it occurs by necessity from existing causes. So, for example, the gravity and the motions of the planets and the galaxies and their movement through space and all that stuff. The angels are perfectly aware of the entire movement of those kinds of things, even into the future, even to the end of time, to the extent that they're governed by mechanical causes and so forth.
Okay,
but
the only when someone's will is involved,
they can't call it. Somebody's going to decide something. Angels have no idea what they're going to decide. They may guess, they may see patterns, they may know that a person has a weakness for something, that 80% of the time, if you put the thought of a certain thing into their head at the right moment, they'll go into a fit of road rage or something like that. They acquire that knowledge, but they don't have the knowledge absolutely what you're going to do until you do it.
Right.
The other thing, though, and this is, I think, what's kind of interesting and important. They're not capable of holding multiple things in particular in their intellect at the same time. And here's an analogy, and this goes kind of to the nature of intellect. Thomas Aquinas says that it's only God who actually can do this. He doesn't give this power to other creatures. But think about us, we can think of, say, a car. And we can think of an engine, a transmission, wheels, suspension, axles, body, frame. We can think of all of those things together at the same time, but only if we think of them at the same time as a car, as a totality. As soon as we try to think of a transmission not as part of a car, we can't simultaneously think of a tire not as part of a car. People may have minds that are fast enough to think back and forth between them very quickly to where they almost feel like they're thinking about them at the same time, but we can't actually focus our intellect, hold in our mind the form of a transmission and a tire simultaneously, not connected to a whole as a car.
Okay.
Well, the angels are the same way. I talked before about the galaxy and the black hole and the birth of a baby. They can be aware of all of that at once, but only as a totality of material creation. They can't focus on one thing of those and at the same time hold in their intellect another part of that, not as a whole. So if your angel, for example, or let's say your guardian angel, for example, you're driving and you're having thoughts and you're going on in your mind about your boss and how stupid he is and how wrong he was to give you this assignment because you're just already overworked and he should understand. And then you're building up more and more to the extent that you're crossing into almost like a sinful level of rage against your boss, and you're just dwelling on these thoughts. Your guardian angel may be, understanding what's going on and trying to help you, trying to find ways, especially if you said your prayer to your guardian angel that morning, that kind of gives him permission to sort of help whisper ideas into your mind. He's trying to help dissuade you from this, to bring you back to a sort of Christian clarity about things. Mm-hmm. Well, if he's doing that, he might not, and this is, I don't know the level of their capabilities. I'm just putting this as an example of how knowing that angels can't really hold two things in their intellects at the same time might affect how they interact with us. He might not actually be focusing on the fact that the car, ahead of you and one lane over, the guy just dropped his cigarette and he's reaching down the floor trying to find it without looking, and he's going to come over and hit you.
So he missed it.
Well, and that's the point. If your guardian angel had not been distracted trying to keep your mind from going into sinful territory, he might have actually been focusing on the guy with the cigarette and helped you avoid the car. Whereas in the case where you've got your guardian angel distracted with your bad thoughts, he didn't help you avoid the car. You get into a bad car crash or something like that. Again,
better hope you had on clean underwear.
You better
or
hope you
any
had clean
underwear.
You know what? You pray to your guardian angel and hopefully he reminds you in the morning.
Put underwear on and don't drive naked.
That's right.
That was reference to last week's
earlier,
event that you'll have to go listen to if you haven't heard it. Okay.
So anyway, that's one of but the demons too are that way. They have that limitation that they can't hold a understanding of multiple things in their heads at the same time. They have instant access to any one thing that they want, but they can't hold them at the same time. And so as the world unfolds with people making multiple decisions, processing the ramifications of all the, not processing, that's the wrong word, but focusing the light of their intellectual knowledge, of the material world on the ramifications of all those decisions at one time is not something that they can do. So we have a little bit of play, so to speak. Our guardian angels have a little bit of play to help us out when it comes to some of this stuff.
Okay. Some of this stuff also gets into, here's, well, wait a minute. Are we done on the knowledge of angels?
I think we are. If you feel like there's still some weirdness about, I have some other analogies I could go into, but hopefully that's enough to get, most people into a little bit of a, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
See how, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But see, as I read different people about what they say the powers of demons and angels are, I get different stories. And I kind of touched on this last week too, because a lot of it would depend on what our brains can do physically and what it takes more than just the physical matter of brain cells to do. For example, calling up an image in our imagination. There are some who would say that that we think by calling up physical inventories, let's say, of images that we've stored. So our imagination is really a thought that we remember, or a thing that we remember in our mind. So if that's the case, then the demon, yes, can plant images. And as one exorcist pointed out, it can only be images that we have already seen or that we have already imagined, because it's actually a memory.
Okay.
Now that's his claim. There's another school of thought that the imagination itself, the ability to create new images in our mind, is not part of memory and is physical, in which case the demon could do that as well.
Manipulate that in order to perhaps combine known images into distortions.
Yeah, and there's that too, because you can think of a Lamborghini that is white and you can think of one that is red, but you've probably never actually seen one that looks like a candy cane. But you could probably pull an image in your brain up.
Right.
You know. So
the question is if you didn't ever make that, well, not a question, but suggestion is that if you didn't ever actually imagine a candy cane Lamborghini, if this idea of creating new images is a physical process, even though it's driven by the will, if the process is physical, then it's possible demons have the power to make you see in your mind see a candy cane Lamborghini, even if you'd never thought of that before.
And that would be the case with anything that we remember or imagine through the use of the senses. So that could also be a smell or a sound and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even a feeling of touch. So it's one of those things that you could talk about all day, but we don't really know. I think most of the exorcists and the people who have studied this would say, yes, they can put some images into our imagination, and they can be persistent with it and keep putting it there until we feel like we're going crazy.
Right.
So
a priest once told me, a Byzantine priest actually, once told me that there are actually certain demons that specialize, for lack of a better word, on certain kinds of temptations by manipulating certain areas of the memory and the imagination. Some might be drinks, some might be gambling, some might be, say, pornography, and, different things like that.
I would imagine that's true, and I would imagine that through the hierarchy of demons, certain demons are appointed to certain people as they make it apparent that they have certain weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Right.
And again, I think last week I had mentioned one of the possession case where the demon was Beelzebub, but made it clear that they were not. It didn't want to leave the body yet because it hadn't spent long enough, and it would be punished by Lucifer if it left so soon.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a sense of a ruling over, one demon ruling over the others. Now, let me think here. There was a point that I wanted to... Okay. I see different accounts, and I read a bunch of different opinions, and a lot of these I would say are qualified opinions. I mean, these are from exorcists
people who
have been dealing with
qualified to have such opinions. Right.
And for example, there was one exorcist who said that the very hardest demons to drive out are the mute demon.
Oh.
And I guess this is in the Bible. There was a mute demon, and that's the one that Jesus said you can only cast these out through prayer and fasting.
Oh, so mute demons are these demons who have acquired the ability to not speak through the person they're possessing, or are these demons who somehow lack the capacity to speak through a body that they're possessing?
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't explain that. But here's the thing. I saw another account of a documented possession where there were several main demons who were possessing the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, there were hordes and hordes of lesser demons. And one of those groups of demons that were lesser, that were very easy to drive out, were mute demons.
Huh.
So you hear different opinions, and I'm not going to say any one of them are wrong.
Right.
But I think by the time you get that specific into demons and specific demons and which ones are harder to drive out than others, I think it's almost it's not helpful really to try to get that deep into it.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, certainly not at the level that
not for the layman.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is figure out how do we resist the temptations of that might be brought on us, by demons. Certainly, I don't think we should shy away from the reality that yes, there are temptations that come from demons, but that is far more prevalent than, say, actual possession.
Right. Now, when it comes to actual possessions, as you had mentioned last week, generally and this is almost every exorcist that I've read about or watched in an interview or anything, claimed that all of their cases involved someone who somehow invited the devil in.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to be the case that many of the... Well, see, we've got the different things that people will talk about: possession, obsession, and pestering of demons,
mm-hmm.
and things like that. And I would say that, yeah, possession, you have to actually invite the demon in. You have to be complicit at some point in your life in that.
Right.
Now, that's not the case in cases of obsession or oppression.
Right. Well, in fact, that Byzantine priest that I mentioned that was telling me, the term he used was there are sins of obsession, and that's what he meant is that the temptations for those sins come about from a demonic obsession, tempting the person.
Okay.
So and these are just
sense.
Normal sins that you just go to confession for. I mean, it's not something that,
mm-hmm.
that is suddenly this big thing where you need an exorcist or anything like that. In fact, he said you can say your own, if you think you're being tempted, you can say your own prayers of exorcism.
Right. Prayers of exorcism, kind of.
Yeah.
Now, see, here's where we could, and we haven't actually discussed this before, so you might disagree with me on this. Let's see. Things like prayers of deliverance are generally kind of new terms.
Mm-hmm.
It was always understood in the church that an exorcism always had to be done by a priest.
Yeah.
An ordained priest.
Right.
Because only an ordained priest can directly command the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Not because there's some kind of law against it, as if he's sinning by doing it. Although you could make the case that he is,
if he knows.
Inviting trouble anyway. Right. But just because he doesn't have the authority.
Right.
Only the ordained priest has the authority to give direct commands to the demons. So, let's see, Pope Leo XIII had written down these, he's calling it a minor exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, he didn't actually say that it should be used by the lay people.
Oh, okay.
It was the thing is, in order to perform an exorcism, you have to not only have an ordained priest, but you have to have the permission of that bishop.
Right. A priest can't perform an exorcism in a jurisdiction without the bishop's allowance. Right.
Well, with a minor exorcism, i.e., these prayers by Pope Leo XIII, you could do that. So there's kind of a relaxation of the rules there, and I think basically that's what the prayers were for. And as well as it's calling the angels and calling Jesus and calling the saints to help get rid of a demon.
Mm-hmm.
But included in the prayers written by Pope Leo XIII are words spoken directly to a demon.
Oh, okay. So
now some people have decided that this is something lay people could do. And let me find it here. At some point, Ratzinger, before he was Pope Benedict, wrote a letter instructing people not to do these.
Okay.
Because lay people were getting together in groups and having deliverance prayers.
Oh, okay.
And his instructions were not to do that, and that it would cause trouble.
Yeah, I imagine.
Now, some people have seen this and said, this only applies, number one, to cases of actual possession. And number two, it only applies when you're not commanding the devil to leave you yourself alone. In other words, I can say these words to a demon that's pestering me. I cannot say these words to a demon that's pestering you.
Pestering another. Okay. Right.
That's what some people have taken it to mean.
You know, I kind of, that actually, I wonder if this same priest that I was talking to, it's kind of in that context only that he was saying that you could say these prayers when you know that you're being tempted by something that the only reason you would be tempted is if something from the outside is planting this thought in your head, and so it's like a personal exorcism. And only of obsession, obviously. I mean, if you're possessed, you're obviously not going to be capable of saying a prayer of exorcism.
Right.
But so I wonder if he's kind of latched onto this thing, you know, that you're talking about, which may be a mistake. I mean, it may be that yeah, as lay people, even demons who are pestering us, we want to not ever address directly, appeal to our guardian angel, appeal to St. Michael, whatever.
Right. Well, that's my thoughts on it, because exorcism is what an exorcism is commanding a demon to follow any specific order under the authority given by the church and by Jesus Christ.
Right.
And since you don't have authority, then you can't necessarily do that. And whether you're saying you can change the word to prayers of deliverance, but if you're talking to the demon, you're still trying to perform an exorcism.
Right.
And again, this is, I mean, canon law says no one could perform exorcisms legitimately upon the possessed unless he has obtained special and express permission from the local ordinary.
Right. And that has to do with the legalistic aspect of it.
Right. And the local ordinary is to give this permission only to a presbyter who has piety, knowledge, prudence, and integrity of life. I don't know where it's addressed. It has to be a priest, but I should have looked that up before we started.
Well,
I thought I had it, but presbyter,
right?
I guess.
That's a priest. A presbyter is a priest.
So there we have it. Now, people are pointing to this and saying, well, it says upon possessed.
Yeah.
I think we can change the words a little bit and try to make these loopholes. I don't think that changes what it is.
Yeah.
And another argument I've heard is Mark 16, verse 17 through 18. And here it is. And by this quote, people will say, we have anyone who's baptized has authority over demons.
Oh, I know which one you're going to talk about, but go ahead.
Okay. And these signs will accompany those who believe. By using my name, they will cast out demons. So that sounds like anyone who's a believer can cast out demons. But then it goes on to say, they will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes in their hands. And if they drink any deadly thing, it will not hurt them. Well, they will lay their hands on sick and they will recover. So if you're doing all that other stuff, I guess you probably have authority.
I don't, did you ever hear about that cult? The snake holders?
No.
Yeah. They focus
I've
on
seen
that, and they have this. I mean, they have these
like
rituals,
a
these religious rituals where they get into these weird, almost sound like American Indian, dance
trances,
trance dance things, and they pick up these snakes while they're, and I mean, I was watching like one of those magazine shows about it or whatever, and this guy had gotten bit by a snake. Well, because they believe that he's not going to die, he can't go get medical help. And his arm's all stuffed, and it's like, I think he ended up dying. But it's like, obviously you got to interpret this passage some other way.
And this guy had real faith, and it still bit him, and he still got hurt. And died. You might have real faith that you have authority over demons because they're bothering you and not some other person. That doesn't give you the authority.
Right.
I would also point out this. to anyone who's in that position where they think they should address a demon personally. Who has more authority over the demon, you or your guardian angel or Mary?
Yeah.
So why not use them?
Yeah.
Why put the burden on yourself when you don't even know if you have that authority?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the point here is don't talk to demons.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sound advice.
I mean, technically, that would be praying to a demon.
Right. Even presuming to command them in Christ's name or whatever. Yeah. That's. Yeah. I agree. That's only danger lies in that path.
Yeah. Now there are, I guess, a couple little things here. So you would say you open the doors for possession by sinning.
Right.
By committing certain sins,
Mm-hmm.
or by being complicit in it somehow, by using the occult, Ouija boards, things like that.
Certainly, yeah.
I would maintain that in case of serious oppression, the same is probably true. I know there are certain saints who are called specifically to fight the devil and to undergo these kinds of oppressions. People like Padre Pio
Mm-hmm.
and Saint Francis of Assisi, and I think Saint Catherine of Siena was one. Teresa the Little Flower, I think, had some problems. But serious oppression, where, say, things are being moved physically, I think if you're experiencing that, you might want to look into something other than a demonic oppression.
So,
okay.
First of all, let's tell our listeners what oppression is, because they might not know.
Okay. So there's, I guess there's two different kinds here, and I guess one would be pestering, not necessarily oppression. Pestering as in poltergeists, things moving on their own, your house constantly needing to be rewired because the wires seem to go bad, things falling, almost hurting you. That would probably be more pestering. And there are people and priests who have been pestered. I think like if a bishop allows an exorcism in his diocese, he is often harassed by demons.
Right. Okay.
And in this way,
yeah.
The car breaking down when he's trying to get to someone who's maybe dying and needs last rites, things like that. But I don't think those kinds of things happen unless either one, you're being called to a specific battle with a demon, or two, you've somehow been complicit.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, I don't have out and out proof of that, but the demon can only attack you in two ways. Number one, if you give it permission, or number two, if God very specifically gives it permission.
Right. So
I would say that, I mean, you have to seriously consider if God gave a demon specific permission to pester you, I would say, is there a reason that could have happened? Or did maybe it's not a demon? And if you've got, say, reoccurring thoughts, is it because God gave a demon permission to tempt you this way, or is maybe something bothering you?
Mm-hmm.
I guess what this boils down to is I don't believe that demons have is all that much power over us,
right?
Unless we allow them to,
right. But
and we can allow them to by sinning.
Yeah, but is every I don't want to use the word casual. That's the wrong word, but there's lots of sins that we commit throughout the day, and if we do an examination of conscience at night, maybe we recall some of them, and as we if we follow like a path of holiness and really begin to free ourselves of even the appetites for sinful things, and then eventually even the appetites of everything that is not God. Eventually we get to the point where we commit few enough sins that we can recall every single specific one throughout the day, and so on and so forth. But I gotta think that there's most people go through the day committing sins that are for the most part, venial, both, the level of matter, it's not grave matter.
Right.
It's not a grave injustice. It's not a grave violation of, whatever it is. And in the level of deliberation, that it's, okay, they kind of sort of know that they shouldn't be doing this, but they didn't give specific deliberation to this particular act and so on and so forth. I can't think that those kinds of things specifically open us up to oppression, much less possession.
Right. I've heard it said that anytime you commit a mortal sin, you are inviting the devil in. And I can't say I really agree with that either.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you are often committing a mortal sin, you might be inviting oppression.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you've gotten to the point where you're an alcoholic, on the one hand, you would say, yeah, you're inviting a demon to keep you in that state. But on the other hand, does it really take a demon? If you're an alcoholic,
you've got that drive internally. You don't need a demon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I heard one priest say, the devil is weak when you are strong, and the devil is strong when you are weak. Meaning that when these thoughts occur to you that maybe it's coming from your own head, but maybe is coming from a demon. If you abandon them quickly and change the subject in your brain and move on and not give time to it and not keep talking about it or thinking about it, a demon who's trying to put a thought in your head that way has very, very little power.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
But when you obsess over that thought, you are actually giving the demon more power.
Yeah.
And it becomes harder and harder to abandon that line of thought, and the demon itself gains more control over you.
Yeah.
Because whether we're talking about obsession or oppression, that's really what it's all about, is trying to gain control over you to get you to do something that would
God.
Be displeasing to God.
Right.
And the devil only has as much power as you allow it to have.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably the best way to say that. And I'm not saying that oppression doesn't happen, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen often. I'm saying that it's not anything to be scared of if you don't give the power to the devil.
Right. Yeah. Those Hollywood movies where not like The Exorcist, but like certain other Hollywood movies where
the Emily Rose one, maybe.
I never saw that one.
You never saw that?
No, should I?
Yeah, I mean you're not going to think, is. Well, it's a good movie.
Okay,
the actors are good, and it's not like you're going to watch this and say, yeah, that really could happen, because there are plenty of things in here that I don't think could happen.
Oh, okay.
But it's a good movie with good actors, and I guess you would call it somewhat religious. It's kind of a step in a good direction.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood style, because they can't get anything right.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm thinking like The Nun, for example.
I've never
these
seen
movies.
that.
What's that? You haven't seen it?
I never seen it.
Well, and I'm not going to say you should see it. It was stupid in some ways.
Was it?
It's I'll tell you how stupid it is. Okay, so and without even spoiling it, here's how stupid it was. So there's this gate that they have to close, and it's kept, otherwise demons of the world or something like that. So this gate, and it's closed, and it has to be sealed with some droplets of the blood of Christ. Okay, and so there's this ampule that
from the Eucharist?
Well, no, there's this ampule that has preserved in it some from the blood of Christ. But here's the thing: in theory, the setting of this movie is a Catholic convent. A priest is there as part of the people who are involved in that, and that's exactly my point. Wait a minute, you have a priest. You probably have some wine on the premises. You don't have to go on this dangerous trek to retrieve this ampule with Christ's blood.
Right.
See? And that's where it's like, okay, Hollywood really doesn't get it. But the other aspect of this movie is it's like, oh, well, the fear, this nun and the fear that the demon that's in there is going to possess her. Okay, but this is a nun who's in a habit of holiness.
Mm-hmm.
She has nothing to fear in that sense. And that's where, it's like, okay, that kind of Hollywood sort of threat from demons, that doesn't exist. That's the thing that we don't have to be afraid of.
Right. I would say that if you dress yourself in holiness, you have absolutely nothing to fear.
Yeah.
Nothing. All it can do is tempt you.
I'm going to say, isn't that even the put on the armor of Christ or something like that? Something.
Right.
It really is armor when it comes to something like this, demonic possession.
And honesty with yourself that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And then just every day, because you're going to mess up, and I do, and you do, and everyone does. But the sense of, all right, that's the last time I'm going to mess up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
you commit to
keep
it.
trying.
I mean, and then it won't be.
You have
and
nothing
say,
to fear.
Well, that was, I can't do that anymore. Nope, I got to turn my thoughts away from that. Whatever it is, you have to at least just be honest about the reality that this is not something you should be thinking about, and you need to turn your thoughts away, or you need to turn your actions to something else, or whatever.
Right. And also understand that there are certain conditions of the brain and certain conditions of our emotional state that can drive us to have certain thoughts that aren't necessarily from Satan.
Yeah.
There are certain thoughts that pop in my head a lot because I'm a man. But it just takes practice to ignore that. That's just what happens, right? So
yeah, we heard your fantasy podcast.
Oh yeah, the Hulk.
That's right.
I forgot about that. I'm not even going to say which one that was.
Yeah,
that was that.
You guys
got
to go search for it.
Nobody would record with me. I couldn't get you, couldn't get Jason. I had to do something. I wanted to make it somewhat entertaining. So. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like the background music on that one, too.
Yeah, I thought, well, I'll make it even more entertaining. Put some dramatic music in here.
But yeah, that's a reality. That you got to be honest about who you are and realize that, yeah, there's times, for example, there's times when let's say it's okay to go ahead and enjoy a drink. There's times when you need to recognize you probably shouldn't. Because it can just lead you down a darker path where then your thoughts become, sort of keep spiraling around that sinful thought that could then become a toehold for a demon to kind of get more and more of an offensive image into your mind that then starts to become a affection that you begin to want. Whatever it is, it's like we said, it might be pornography, it might be gambling, it might be, if you're really depressed over getting a pay cut, it's probably not a good idea to drink if you live close by to a casino and you happen to have a problem already with gambling. Well, guess what? You're going to be tempted to think, I know what, I'm going to go and clear my bank account out, and then I'm going to come home and I'm going to be set for life because I'll have won all this money. That's the kind of stuff that, that irresponsibility, then you're not taking care of your family and that kind of stuff. But those are, the kinds of occasions to sin that's where it becomes easy for a demon to kind of slip in and just kind of keep pushing us down along that path.
I guess, what,
you know what? You're due, right? You deserve it, and on and on and on.
That's exactly the right word. If you're putting yourself in the occasion of sin, that's when you're giving them strength.
Yeah.
And then maybe you should worry, but you should worry in a sense that you should get out of the occasion of sin.
Right. And get in the habit of thinking, it's kind of funny. It's words you don't even hear much. And I don't even know if they teach the concept in Catholic schools these days, but occasion of sin. Get in the habit of thinking of that in those terms. Oh, wait, there's an occasion of sin. I need to avoid it.
Mm-hmm. If you're driving on your way to work, thinking about the conversation you're going to have with the girl in the office next door because she's a wench bag, and how you're going to lay out your argument against her, you're already putting yourself in an occasion of sin by preparing for that conversation.
Yeah.
And then by walking into her office when you don't really need to walk into the office.
Right.
So it's little things like that can go a long way.
Instead, go ahead and play our podcast while you're driving.
Right. Play the podcast and then circle the beads.
And then circle the beads. That's right.
Yeah. But that would, if you are being pestered by a demon, those are the kinds of things that would put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Aside from frequent confession, and saying the rosary and going to mass.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you take that approach, the less you have to fear of the devil.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with a couple people, and they think I'm crazy because you should give the devil his due. And I say, yeah, by all means, give the devil his due. That means don't engage.
Yeah,
and that's
it's
all
like
it means.
Don't be Johnny and the devil went down to Georgia. You'll never win.
Right.
That's
so. If you have a healthy respect in the sense that you should have nothing to do with them,
that's giving him his due, and that's
right.
the safest path. Yeah.
And he is not due the type of awe that we have for God or even the angels.
Right. Absolutely.
Because he has no power until we give it to him.
And that's where, let's say you commit some grievous sin, and then you think, well, the devil must have made me do that, and it wasn't really me. Therefore, what? I don't have to go to confession?
Right.
You know what? You're giving
danger.
the devil more than his due there. That the devil didn't make you. You did it. What's happened is the devil's putting that thought in your head that you don't have to go to confession.
On the same token, look, it's pretty easy to commit a mortal sin these days.
Yeah.
I guess it always was, but I think it might be easier now. When you commit a mortal sin, and this is where people might say, well, I've committed this mortal sin, and that's an invitation to the devil. And there are certain mortal sins, I believe, that are invitations. Mm-hmm. We mentioned abortion last podcast.
That would be an example.
This is an example of one, and it's not just. That's excommunication, isn't it?
It is
in any way being complicit in it.
Yes. I don't know the exact wording in terms of the level of complicity, but procuring one or providing one, absolutely,
right.
Excommunication.
I would imagine
and procuring one. That means if you pay for your girlfriend to get one, you're procuring it. If you drive her to the clinic and support her decision to get one, you're procuring it. Excommunication, automatic.
And I would imagine if you argue her into doing it, you're also procuring it.
Yes.
Well, that's even worse.
Plus, that's the sin of scandal, and now you're leading her into a sin that she may not have chosen. You're leading her into an excommunication that she may not have chosen on her own.
Is that the one where you tie a millstone around your neck and go in the lake?
Jesus said, who scandalizes one of these. Better that you have a millstone tied around your neck and thrown into the sea. Leading another person to sin is one of the worst, according to our Lord.
Right. Okay. But, just to pull up an example, boyfriend and girlfriend, they've been dating for a while, and they you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's an invitation to the devil.
Oh, not in that sense. No.
I don't think you're going to have to worry the rest of your life about being
I've opened
oppressed.
up something and now the devil's going to come in. That's not the kind of it's a and one of the distinctions that you can make there is that I got to be real careful about putting it this way, because it's one of those things that you can open up and almost kind of twist this into an argument for any kind of sin. But it's an example of you could almost call it a good thing out of place kind of a sin. You know what I mean? It's a Well, okay. So, for example, there's that, and then in the case, whereas the case of the abortion is an absolute evil, whereas the one that you just mentioned, fornication, is a what we call it. contextual evil. It's the act itself is good, except within the context within which it was committed. Then it's evil,
right?
Because then it's sinful. And in fact, it would be more proper to say it's sinful rather than evil in that context. Whereas an abortion is just plain evil.
Right.
It's the evil ones that really open that door.
Right.
Now, having said that, it's like, okay, I wouldn't want anybody to go and say, oh, well, my particular sin,
not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. We're called to a life of holiness that has been very clearly laid out before us by Christ and by his church for 2,000 years. You've got to live according to that life. You've got to go to confession. You fail.
Right. Now, one more point as far as confession goes. And again, it would be kind of like this with excommunication. If you've done something to get yourself excommunicated, then you have to do more than just go to confession anyway. Yes, but you fall into sin, and then you go to confession.
Right.
Now, anytime someone like the laity, or actually the priests and nuns themselves, who either do the exorcism or take part and help in one, are always told, make a full confession before you go in.
That makes sense.
First of all, to give yourself the grace you need to get through this. Mm-hmm. Second of all, because the demon will tend to call out people's sins.
Oh, right.
Now, there's a possibility that demons will not see the sins that you've committed in the past that you have confessed.
So you confess your sin, it kind of becomes, it's like washed away in the blood of the Lamb. It's like that, right? It's no longer visible. It's dissolved in God's mercy. Then
now there might be, if you've got a demon who say saw you do it or
right. Yeah, there's the material aspect.
There might
of
be a
every
memory
sin
there
that can be brought out, or if you've got a memory of it that somehow and that's the thing. If demons can manipulate images, they might try all kinds of images, trying to put it through your head. I'd say I'm thinking an exorcist trying to put it through an exorcist's head, hoping that one of them triggers a memory of a specific sin. Well, then they call that memory to mind. Now the demon can access it, maybe get a hold of it and call it out, whatever. I can imagine that danger is there. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense that going to confession for someone who's going to, engage a demon would be very important.
Right. And now there was another one of these documented possessions where the demon was calling out the sins of someone, and that person said something to the effect that nothing you say can bother me. And from the demon's response, you would tend to think that if that person had confessed it, the demon would not know it.
Ah, okay.
And so when you think about, I've committed these sins and now I've invited the devil into my life, you might keep that in mind.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The confession does solve this problem.
Right.
That's why God gave it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do call evil into our lives when we sin, but we kick evil out of our lives when we go to confession.
Right. We don't change, it doesn't get rid of the appetite for the sin that causes a temptation to commit it again, but it really truly does absolve us of the sin itself, of the committed sin, including any kind of hold over us because of that sin that, say, a demon might have.
So, I think that is the last point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, good point. That confession, an extremely powerful weapon in our fight for personal holiness. When as we talked about last time, I mean the just massive armies of demons that are trying to pull us away from God.
Yeah. And again, that's all they want.
Yeah.
They want destruction, especially the destruction of our relationship with Christ.
Right.
That is their. I guess you might say that's their highest purpose. It's not really their highest purpose.
Yeah, because their highest purpose is their own. I don't know. Their highest purpose is selfish by definition.
Right. To somehow get back at God, but they know that they accomplish this by. You know what? There might be one other thing that we
what ought to mention?
Well, we dove into this when we did the one on ghosts.
Yeah.
That when demons are somehow interacting with the physical world, it seems to do something to somewhat alleviate the pains of hell.
Yeah. I don't, maybe that's one of those things that, I wonder if Thomas Aquinas ever read, but yeah.
I don't know.
I don't.
But, I mean, this is, aside from cases of possession and stuff like that, this is biblical. For example, when the mute, no, it wasn't a mute demon.
Oh, Legion.
Right.
The one that
Legion.
Jesus sent into the herd of pigs.
Right. So they wanted to go in, they didn't want to just go back to hell. They wanted to go into the herd of pigs. And it's not like they're not in hell, even when they're in the pigs.
Yeah.
They're still in hell. That's because it's a state of being.
One of those passages that really makes you think. But I think that's, I don't know, there's got to be some, like you said, some kind of mitigation of the torment somehow.
Right.
So wait,
and so,
you've watched interviews of, with extras and stuff. Have you seen any of them touch on that?
Yeah, there was one where the demon was, the demon didn't want to leave because it didn't want to go, quote, back to hell. And the exorcist said something to the extent that you're already in hell. And, I am completely paraphrasing here. Mm-hmm. The demon said something to the extent that, yes, but I don't feel the full effect of hell when I'm given a charge like this to pester or possess this person.
Oh, interesting. So even just in pestering, they somehow experience some kind of distraction maybe from the torments of hell.
Right. And so, I mean, from the rest of our podcast, you might think, well, demons don't pester us or don't do anything here. And I'm not saying they don't.
Right.
I'm just saying you don't have to be afraid of them.
Right. So, okay. All right. So,
that's it.
All right. That's it. Wow. We
got
an hour and 20 minutes. Do we have some news?
It's going to be a long one. Yeah, we do. Let's see. Events. All right. So, you know what? We're getting these, either planned and foiled or carried out plans of terrorism all over the place. And once again, I see very little about who's doing it. And most of the cases, as I look further and further in, I find out it's some kind of Muslim. There was a U.S. Army veteran who was planning to plant a bomb on a white. He was going to bomb a white nationalist rally.
Okay.
In retribution for the shooting in New Zealand. And I guess there were some, remember that guy in New Zealand who had started killing Muslims?
Yeah.
Okay. This U.S. Army veteran was going to plant a bomb because of that.
At a white
he was also planning
here in the States or in New Zealand?
Right, yeah, in the States.
Okay.
He was also planning to do some attacks on Jews. He was foiled and arrested. And
wow. So not just white nationalists, but Jews as well.
Right. I guess I don't even remember too much about the New Zealand one because it was a while ago. But over and over, I'm seeing these terrorist attacks, and the more I look into them, they're almost all Muslims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, increasingly.
I think we should brace for this because I think it's going to keep getting worse. Yeah. This is who they are. Period.
Yeah.
And people have got to quit that line of thought that they're just normal people who just want to practice their religion freely.
Right.
And that's not the case.
No, it isn't.
Period.
They want everybody to practice their religion, not freely. Freely or not. I mean, they don't care whether it's freely.
They want to force
part of the Muslim religion.
And yeah, I mean, that is the religion, to force other people to be a part of their religion. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, I'm getting to hear that Rod Rosenstein announced he will resign May 11th. I thought he already did resign. I thought he announced this already. But there it is. He's saying he will resign on May 11th. I don't know why that guy's even around. I mean, he was in control of a lot of the Mueller investigation.
Right, the appointed Mueller.
And I think he might get into some trouble as Barr starts these investigations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that
Barr has dropped all kinds of hints that some people are going to be investigated now. The people who were behind these Russia investigations.
Yeah. And I think they should.
Yeah, so I think, I wonder if Rosenstein is
one of them.
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Yeah. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is sentenced to 50 weeks in prison. This is in the UK.
Oh, okay.
For a breach of bail or something. The U.S. is still trying to get him extradited on charges the charges are conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. I think they'd have a hard time proving that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the story.
Okay. Well, he's the WikiLeaks guy, and
Mr. WikiLeaks. Okay. Yeah, that would be tough. I mean, okay, was it intrusion or did he obtain leaks some other way than hacking government computers or whatever?
And it's possible that somebody got the information through intrusions and then gave him the information. Once he has the information, he's just putting it out there. He's not
right. That's one of those.
I don't know what to say about him.
It's one of those things. I don't like to see the government undermined. I'm highly in favor of as much government transparency as possible, and I'm a rather I don't want to use the word extreme, but a rather absolutist on freedom of speech in the sense of being able to say what you know, unless you're already bound under an agreement of some kind, like NDAs or like assignment to a government position or something that says, okay, there's certain things that you can't say publicly. But other than that, I'm kind of an absolutist when it comes to free speech as well. So I don't know. That's
I mean, we need whistleblowers. That's all there is to it. We need them. So, and you could make the case that that's all he is.
Yeah.
Okay, now, speaking of free speech, President Putin signed the Internet Sovereignty Bill. I guess there's a lot of people saying this is just a bill against free speech. I guess he wants a isolated internet landscape the way China does,
Oh, so this is for Russia.
Right.
It's Russia clamping down on free speech.
Right.
Following the Chinese model.
Yeah.
That's scary that increasing parts of the world are being put behind. I mean, we referred to the Iron Curtain back during the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
This is a cyber curtain.
Yeah.
I mean, China's already behind it. Now Russia's going to go behind it. We're going to have another Cold War with a cyber curtain instead of an Iron Curtain, and it may be one of those things that turns from a Cold War into a hot war at some time. I don't know, but yeah, these are not good developments.
Well, and then you add to this, North Korea fired some short-range projectiles from the east coast city of Wonsan.
Oh.
I don't think it's a huge deal. It wasn't like those nuclear warheads.
No, they're not nuclear warheads. But so they fired
not nuclear warheads. They weren't long range.
Right.
The type that would carry nuclear warheads.
Right. But
so I'm not sure what he was doing there. We mentioned last week that some of the negotiations seem to be falling apart when he's meeting with Putin.
Yeah.
So, and then he's calling Trump on some $2 million thing that he says we owe him.
Yeah.
And I think this is all just part of his. Yeah, I think.
But the problem is, he may be, on the one hand, there's North Korea with regards to the entire international community, and the United States is part of that. On the other hand, there's North Korea with regards to South Korea. And I think clearly Kim Jong-un, any North Korean dictator is going to want a united Korean peninsula, and they're going to want to subsume South Korea back into their dictatorship.
Yeah. I guess we keep our eye on that. I don't know. Freewinds cruise ship. The Freewinds cruise ship. It's a ship owned by the Church of Scientology.
Okay.
The whole ship was quarantined. Here's how this is quoted. Over concerns of a measles epidemic.
Oh, wow.
After it is reported that one of the passengers has the disease.
Oh, yeah. The problem is that on a
well,
cruise
I guess
ship,
it could be an epidemic if they don't believe in vaccinations.
Well, that's true, but it was quarantined not by them, but probably by the harbor master. Like, hey, you ain't getting off the ship,
it was a
and
civil
we can't let you
law
leave.
thing. And Saint Lucia, I don't know where that is.
Oh, wait,
Find
Saint
out
Lucia?
here.
It's I thought it was.
Oh, that's a
in the
Caribbean
Caribbeans.
island.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's down there, pretty close to Venezuela, like off of Venezuela.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where that was.
Yeah.
Don't know the results of that yet. We got another Democrat running, Michael Bennett from Colorado. He's a senator from Colorado.
Another Democrat?
He's going to run for president. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where they're looking for another Trump. You know, they're throwing as many people as they can into the mix, hoping one of them will pan out.
Oh.
I kind of see. It's like they're a spray and pray strategy here.
Yeah.
They're hoping one of these people stick and and take leadership.
It's kind of funny. I keep seeing these conservative commentators and writers saying, well, if the Democrats want to have a chance of defeating Trump 2020, here's what they have to do. And I think they're always correct in what they're saying. And obviously one of the things is about this great big field that's kind of just diluting the Democrat message, and then you've got the infighting between the new young crowd like AOC and the old guard like Pelosi and them.
Yeah.
But what I keep wondering is, why on earth are you telling the Democrats how to defeat Trump in 2020? Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Write it up privately and then stow it away, and then after the election, bring it out and say, hey, by the way, guys, here were my thoughts during 2019 and 2020.
You know, the left is... Here's the thing about the left. They absolutely refuse to learn why Trump has his followers.
Yeah.
And to that end, we could tell them, but they'll never accept it because they'll never question what they might have done wrong or what Trump might be doing right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they'll never be able to use that same strategy.
Exactly, because...
So, oh well.
No.
Let's see. We got Trump. Okay, get this. The California Senate passed a bill that specifies that any presidential primary running in the primaries has to release their tax returns.
Oh.
So if you don't release your tax returns, you can't run in the primaries.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
I don't even understand how they could do that. They couldn't do that, could they? So how can the California Senate pass laws for what? The GOP?
That's true. It's the party who does that.
That doesn't even make sense.
That's the parties. The parties, the Senate, the federal government can't pass laws about the individual party corporation.
Right.
I mean, they pass some laws, like for example, donations and stuff like that, certain kinds of things. But no, I don't think they can mandate stuff like that for the candidates within the primaries. Yeah, cut that.
Well, they did what they did. I guess we'll wait and see what happens to it. Yeah, I will.
That sounded stupid. Yeah, no, I completely missed. Yeah, you're talking about primary, not general election. That's right. There's no way.
Okay.
There's no way.
I don't know. They're doing all kinds of crazy things, and
what it is? They're desperate.
Yeah, they are.
They're desperate.
They are so desperate.
It's like,
you know what would be funny is if Trump said, "Well, you know what? I didn't get California anyway, and I don't need California, so I guess don't put me on the ballot."
In California.
Yeah. And he still wins. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Because he won't.
That's not going to happen.
He knows he's not going to get California.
Right. So who cares?
So yeah.
Well, there are some states right now trying to say that whoever wins the popular vote will automatically get all of their elector votes. I think that's not constitutional.
No, wait a minute. Most states are like that.
No, not the popular vote of that state. The popular vote of the country.
Oh, so like some state, like
I think Colorado's one of them.
Like Colorado's saying, oh, so if all the big population centers, New York, California, I don't know, wherever, Florida, I don't know where but if the big population states, if they all vote like 80% for this candidate, so that even though all the other states disagree and they only vote close to 50-50, and the president gets all the electoral votes from all these other states, but the popular vote of the country overall goes in favor of the other candidate, well,
that's what they're
our
trying
electors
to do.
go in favor of that other candidate. Wow, that would be supremely stupid. It's like they're surrendering.
It'd be terrible.
They're surrendering their voice as a state.
Right.
It's like, hey guys, we're going to take a back seat. Y'all speak for us. I mean, think
Right.
about what that means
It's
for the
insane.
people of that. I can't imagine any state. I can't imagine the people of any state supporting that.
I think
You know what I mean?
a lot of people in a lot of states have lost their sense of statehood. The sovereignty of the states has been diminished to the point where people don't really understand what it is and why we have it.
Sheesh. I mean, they may as well elect senators. Well, why have 2 senators per state? Let's just elect 100
Right.
senators at large throughout the country.
Right.
I mean, that's how much sense that makes.
That is literally taking the voice out of the small man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if these things are going to pass or not, or if they're going to be able to uphold
The
those.
fact that
Hopefully
people
not.
are even talking about them. The fact
It's
that they're
weird that
here's
they
the
would-
thing.
yeah.
The fact that people who would talk about them and who would support them have been able to get elected. You know what I mean? I mean, think about how stupid the people who are voting for these people have to be to elect somebody who is that stupid.
Well, just look
You
at
know?
AOC and
For example.
yeah, it's weird that anyone. I don't know. It's weird that anyone could be that stupid and not know they are that stupid. But and then to get votes
Yeah,
for
exactly.
people
I
that
know.
stupid.
I know.
This
This
is
is
a
enough
disaster.
to make you want to despair.
yeah. Okay, one more thing. Did you watch the Kentucky Derby?
No, I don't watch horse races.
Okay. So it was kind of a big deal because I don't I don't make a point to watch them, but it's on every year at Mom's house, and I was there at Mom's house, and it was on. So I happened to walk in the room just as the race went. You know what? I'm terrible at remembering all these horses' names. So this
Think of
horse
horses'
was
weird
way out in front,
Uh-huh.
and the guy on his right starts creeping up.
Okay.
Now, when you're in front, where do you hug? You hug the wall, right?
Yeah, because that's the shortest path, right?
So this guy on the right is creeping up on him, and suddenly he shifts out in front of him.
To block them, for example.
That's what I thought was going on. When I watched it, that's what I assumed was happening. Apparently, you're not allowed to do this.
Okay.
I didn't know that either, or even care.
Well, yeah,
but
yeah.
he did move out in front of this other horse. And then the guy on the inside started creeping up. And he moved back in front of that horse to the point where their hooves practically touched.
Wow.
It looked dangerous. It looked real dangerous. And then he went on to win the race.
Okay.
And then there was an objection, and he lost the race.
So, well,
They
how does
took
that
it
work?
from
Like
him.
they
He was
add-
disqualified.
Okay, they disqualify him completely. They didn't just add so much of his time.
Right.
Okay.
He's disqualified. I guess I don't know exactly what the rules were broken. I don't know if it's because he was he was reckless and could have caused problems. I heard that mentioned a lot, or if because you have to stay in your lane. I don't know exactly how that works.
Yeah, I don't think.
Again,
I
never cared
stay
enough.
in a lane so much, but yeah. Okay, so yeah.
But he did lose.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing: the two guys that he cut off, they did not win. The guy who came in second won. The guy who came in second was neither one of those other two people.
Oh, wow.
So
Interesting.
it's kind of weird. I don't think anything like that's ever happened before. So when you go into work tomorrow and people talk about the Derby, that's what they're talking about.
That's what they're talking about.
It's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
I'll see if anybody talks about the Derby.
Okay. That's all I got. You got some?
I have a few things from the Nation of Nonsense. Okay.
Okay,
so,
good.
First of all, and this is strange, but in a way a little bit tragic too. So those bounce houses that you can rent that blow up and they always had them at the Harvest Home.
I rented one.
And we used to do them. Also, you've rented one for your kids. Did you
Yeah.
Did you attach it to the ground?
I did not. The guy who came out and set it up for him.
It was attached.
He hooked it up for me.
It was attached to the ground.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in Washington State, at a place called Zilla High School, some students were injured when a gust of wind lifted the bounce house into the air.
Jeez.
10 to 20 feet high into the air. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Now.
So did it come down on the bouncy part?
I don't know. They don't have video. I didn't see.
Okay.
They don't have video on this one. It's like, 10 to 20 feet in the air. 5 students were injured. Yeah. Mild concussion, possible concussion, minor injuries, stuff like that. One student received CPR and shock treatment and was airlifted to a hospital, but I think he survived and everything. But you would think, okay, bouncy house, tie it down.
Yeah,
now,
that would be the thing.
Here's the thing: in China, similar thing. So the one I just told you about is when did this actually happen? 3 days ago. So reported on May 2nd. China reported a month earlier. So these guys in Washington could have learned something. A bouncy house flies up. 2 children were killed as this bouncy house was thrown up by a kind of a freak dust devil that hit the area.
Yeah.
Now, this one, there's video, and when you consider that there are kids in the bouncy house, it's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, I can't watch those kinds of videos.
Yeah, if you search, China, I don't know if you search, bounce house. So search China bounce house.
China bounce house.
And you can find it, folks who are listening. I don't know if we'll put it on our website because like I said, when you think about the fact that there are kids in there, you don't see any kids, but when you think about, wow, there's kids in there, this video is really disturbing. So anyway, but then, in Washington, apparently not having learned the lesson, it happened again in the 20 feet high, and a few students got some minor. Now, that's just kind of weird. Now, here's one that's kind of funny. So cops spotted a, it's a can of Chef Boyardee ravioli running down the road with what looks like skateboard wheels on it, and they were so spooked out by this that they shut down the street and the red line train that runs below the street.
Wait a minute. They saw a can of ravioli.
A can of ravioli.
Like a guy dressed up as a can of ravioli?
Riding around on a set of skateboard wheels, what looks like skateboard wheels with a little antenna sticking out the back. Well, taped.
Wait a minute. Was it an actual can or a guy dressed up as a can?
No, an actual can. A little can of ravioli.
Oh, just a little can of raviolis. And
with some wheels to it, moving along the street. So they shut down the street.
Can you imagine?
And the red line train underground.
Can you imagine the kids giving each other high fives after something like that?
Apparently.
They shut down the street.
It was probably just part of some robotics. They were doing a test of some robotics project at the local college.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I think it was the fact that it was Chef Boyardee that had everybody spooked.
If it were Campbell's,
that might have been
that'd be okay, but not Chef Boyardee. Those Italians.
That's right. And especially in Chicago,
Right.
Okay, this next one is this is truly bizarre. Maybe you've heard about this. I had not heard about this guy before. This name is Thomas Tremaglini. He's an ex-superintendent of Kenilworth Schools in New Jersey.
No, I've never heard of
Okay. He resigned after pleading guilty. This is the first part of the story. He resigned after pleading guilty to defecating on the track field of another high school about a year ago.
Wow.
Now, he
okay.
It's not like he did it once. He did it again and again. It was like they would keep finding human poop out on their track, and they were wondering. So they finally set up some surveillance. And I guess he was stupid enough not to realize they would eventually set up surveillance. They caught him on film doing it. So he pleaded guilty to something or other. There were like 3 or 4 counts against him. He pleaded guilty, paid a $500 fine, resigned as the superintendent, The other charges went away, but and it was a low-level crime, and maybe according to standard practice they shouldn't have done this, but the police released his mugshots and the charges. So now he's suing the police department for releasing his mugshot, claiming that the agency's actions smeared his reputation.
Smeared.
I think the smearing started before they released the mugshot.
Right. That reminds me a lot of the Mad Pooper.
Was there? I never heard of that.
Have you ever heard about
No.
that? There was a jogger who kept defecating in people's front yards.
Like he's jogging along and it's like, okay, sorry, my system's been moving along. I got to go now. And
yeah, actually,
was it
she?
She was it like during the daytime?
Wait a minute, this wasn't in Cincinnati. Was this in Cincinnati? No. And she would be jogging and suddenly have to go. And this one lady came outside. Her kids were in the front yard playing, and this lady walks into the yard, pulls her pants down, and goes to the bathroom. And she comes out and sees her, and she's like, "Are you serious? Are you really doing that right in front?" And the lady's like, "Yeah, sorry," and then gets back up and takes off.
So did this happen more than once?
It was a big deal for a while. Nobody could figure out who it was. Like they would see him, but they couldn't connect to the person, and then finally arrest the person. So, there was they called her the Mad Pooper.
Did they finally catch her?
Yeah.
Okay. That's so bizarre. I mean, what?
Yeah,
you
that's
gotta
weird.
be sick of the head. Both these cases. Well, this guy, after they released the mugshot,
smeared his name all over the place, huh?
He became known as the pooperintendent, the school pooperintendent.
I'm gonna call the Pooper.
The thing is, they've got this picture of him on the story, and I mean, he's got this really super conservative haircut. He's in this business suit with the tie, and it's like,
what was this? Just like our team's better than your team, so I'm gonna poop on your field, or
no? It's like I don't even know how to go into the mind of somebody who does that.
People do some weird things.
I mean, if it was Walmart, okay, I could understand, but
yeah, you expect that kind of thing at Walmart.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for the Nation of Nonsense.
Yeah, I guess that's enough. Enough of that dirty talk.
That's right. We got to clean this show up a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Don't be afraid of demons, but go to confession and say your
as
rosary.
Always, circle the beads.
Circle the beads. Think about what we said, and we hope to see you next week. Wait a minute, you're not going to be here next week.
I will not be here next week. Hopefully you can get Jason to record with you.
Yeah, hopefully. It's hard to get him. He'll say, yeah, I think I can, and then he never... Like, you see the conversations between us leading up to a podcast. He never replies. Yeah. So, hopefully I'll tack him down on it and get him to commit. I got to come up with a good subject, I guess. Something he already knows about that doesn't have to do any work.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.